let's look over what it takes for me to mix a batch of e-juice today. Here's what I've got going right now. I've mixed up a large batch. What I did is printed out my recipe from the website mentioned in the previous video. I made up 1,335 milliliters, so I can get 24 small bottles, 5 of the big bottles. It has been sitting overnight with cheesecloth on top so that the mixture can breathe. And there's a mixing spoon on the inside, and occasionally I just give that a little stir. And I'll stir right before bottling. Bottling is the next thing in the process. Speaking of mixing jars, for the smaller batches I use canning jars. These work extremely well. You can mix up to 80 milliliters, 200 milliliters, 500. This one here will handle about 1,500 milliliters. That's as large as I go. Those work extremely well with the little center lids too, because you don't even need a rubber band to hold the cheesecloth on. And the purpose on that overnight sit is to let the mixture steep a little bit, and also for the ingredients to just intertwine really well. And if there's any alcohol in any of the flavorings, if they use just a pinch, gives it time for those things to evaporate off. And in my experience, that does the mixture good. PG and VG, I buy them in larger containers and pour them down into the small quart sizes because they're easier to handle. These are the flavors. These particular ones were used in this mix. And this is the nicotine, and it's the same deal with that. I purchased the larger sizes, 500 milliliters and larger, and then pour them down into the 250 bottle because they're easier to work with during the mixing process. Now I'm going to bottle those into little containers of 120 milliliters and 30 milliliters. What I use to get it into the bottles, what I found works best for me, is one of these large, ultra large, 150 milliliter cath tip syringes. These will fit right in the little bottle. Perfect. And you can take the plunger out, fill the thing up to 150 milliliters and go from one bottle to another and make it kind of like a assembly line process. Now, as far as mixing the juice, in large batches like this, I did all of my measurements with these graduated cylinders back here. All the way from 250 milliliters down to 10. And with these type of liquids that we're dealing with, looky here, we got 974 milliliters. That's quite a bit, and that's where these larger ones come in handy. You might have to go through the measurement process a couple or few times, but sure saves a lot of time and trouble with other methods, and it's more accurate than a large diameter beaker that may be graduated. For smaller batches, I'll be into syringes, all about syringes. I've got 60s, 20s, 10s, 5s, 3s, and a bunch of 1s. Needles, blunt tip needles, I've got 12s, I've got 14s, and I've got 16s, blunt tip all. That way, for instance, if you're measuring out various flavors for a smaller batch, you can use the 1 cc syringe. And the reason I've got different gauge needles is that the large 12 gauge needle will dispense and sometimes even draw a thick mixture like VG, pure VG. Now for a mixture of VG and PG, you can switch over to the smaller needles. For pure PG, like flavors that are based on PG. The 16 gauge works just fine. These ones come in real handy, and if you've got a bunch of the needles, you can just change. If you're just using the syringe to draw with, of course you can't draw and then put it in another flavor afterwards and expel any excess, so you've got to get the draw right on the first attempt. Just a way to reduce the number of things to clean when you're done. That's the basic lineup right there. For mixing, I've got chopstick and forks. Those work just fine. And the spoon for the big ones. Cleaning brushes that work real well on the graduated cylinders. Now for pouring chemicals, like if you need, for instance, 75 milliliters of PG for a mixture, that's where I use small solo cups. I think those are about 5 ounce, maybe 4 or 5 ounce. And then I use these little 1 ounce condiment type cups. I think I got both of those on Amazon. That works out real well. I use the small ones mainly with things in smaller quantities, like the nicotine. I know that these will hold 25 milliliters. So I can put 25 mils in here, draw up whatever I need for the batch, and then take the little cup and pour it back into the bottle. That way I'm not going to get any contamination from the syringe. So that's the overall process, and that's the equipment used. I hope you got something out of this and enjoyed watching. See you in another video.